So until Kadri gonna solve the issues, let's go to another participant, and Gatis. Thank you coming from Latvia all the way, Cellbox Labs, and please tell a couple of words about your company and what you do, guys.
Yes, we are Cellbox Labs. We are a biotech company, and what we are doing, we are developing organs and chips. That is technology that allows to make miniature organ replicas. They are on a chip, like polymer, small things with human cells inside. So you can make very similar conditions as in our human body, and then you can do drug testing or study any other biological processes.
So next participant is Laurynas Karpus, CEO and co-founder of Biomatter Designs, coming from Lithuania. So Laurynas, welcome, and please tell us a couple words about yourself and what your company.
Yeah, hello everyone. So thanks Donato for the introduction. I'm from Biomatter Designs. At Biomatter Designs, we develop computational solutions that enable new protein molecule design for novel therapeutics and sustainable manufacturing.
Interesting. And the last to present, but probably still going to hear Kadri, is Juozas. Juozas Nainys, and Juozas is co-founder and CEO of company Droplet Genomics, again from Lithuania, working with microfluidic technologies. Please, Juozas, tell a couple of words about yourself and the company, what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Natas, for the invite to this roundtable. And so what Droplet Genomics does is we aim to make high-throughput exploration of biology accessible to more researchers, and put in simple terms, that is, we develop tools for researchers to make novel discoveries.
Sounds interesting, but quite complicated. I hope everybody who's listening can understand that also. Kadri, how is the technical issues? Is it working? You should probably try to go to mic of computer if without earphones, as the same as what I done. So, okay, so we're gonna allow Kadri to solve the issues, and guys, I think we can jump on a discussion, and we hope that Kadri gonna join us as soon as possible. So, probably, we've been seeing the amazing growth of technology startups in our region, right? And these unicorns, 7 in Estonia, 2 in Lithuania, a couple coming up in Latvia also. Can we say the same about biotech? Can we say the same about life science? Can we say that this field is also growing, and we see interesting and new stuff coming out of that? What is your take on that? What do you see in your countries? Should we start from Juozas answering?
Yeah, I think so. Lithuania, I cannot talk about Lithuania, right? Because that's where we operate. That's where we know the surroundings. So Lithuania historically has a very strong biotech sector as it is. But I think for the first perhaps 20-ish years of our independence, there was no real startup scene in biotech. And that has recently changed. At least I see a lot of new activity in biotech and medtech. A lot of new startups coming up, people testing their ideas, and it's really great to see this kind of initiatives springing everywhere up, and researchers being not afraid to try build a startup. So I think hopefully in the near-term future we'll see a unicorn from biotech as well.
That's good ambition, guys. What do you see in Latvia? What is your take on that?
Yes, so I think we have. In that sense of startups, a number of startups and startup scene in general, it's similar in Baltic states. I would say it's not that popular or that mature like in Latvia as Lithuania. I would say I could probably name, I don't know, like 5 or 1 to 2 hands use to name all biotech startups, but I think it grows proportionally. If we see, we have like, I don't know, 100 startups, we see few or several biotech and life science startups. And yes, similarly, in like last, I think 5 years, all of them have been founded. So there is some activity, but it's picking up right now, especially in last years.
That's very good to hear. Laurynas, of course, you being second Lithuanian company on the panel already represent that we have some activities, right, going on. So, what is your take on this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Juozas. Although we don't have much startups, we have a great foundation of already large companies that already been purchased by some of the larger biotech companies like Thermo Fisher purchase. So I think we have we have the experience throughout the years to build those companies. I think the startup, in a sense, is something new. So beginning not from like a spin-off from university, but more of a from scratch, like in a more of a startup-y world. But I think the potential is definitely there, and I think we're going to see some great things in the upcoming years.
Hope Kadri going to come back soon and she's going to be able to give us a bit of view on from Estonian point of view. But let's wait and let's continue with our discussion. So, guys, it's probably very clear, right? To start a life science company from scratch, it's not enough just one computer or two guys sitting in a coffee shop and doing some crazy idea, right? You need to know a lot of things. You need to employ real science here, right? So, do we have enough infrastructure? Do we have enough know-how? Do we have enough labs at the end of the day, or to start these young companies, innovative companies in our region? What is your take on these guys? What, Gatis, let's start with you. It's I know you're part of the institute, and I know you're part of this ecosystem for a long time. So it's very interesting to understand. And
I think it's crucial to have infrastructure available. I think it's based on infrastructure of academia, universities, and institutes. This is where mostly these deep tech startups come from. And right now, I would say in Latvia we have a pretty good situation regarding that. We have available labs. In combination from fabrication, from our side, we use combination of fabrication like clean room, semiconductor clean room, and biological labs. Regarding availability, it would be better to use more this open lab working principle, open access labs that we have, for example, for microfabrication, but it would really help also to be available for biology. And it's since it's all based on universities and basically state-funded entities, we have seen quite improvement in recent years, but it still needs to be improved still a lot till we get actually start seeing, let's say, like commercial labs, like in Cambridge, you see all around for companies to rent and have availability. So in general, it's getting much better and better, and it's I think we have a good enough foundation for that, or infrastructure support.
Great. Laurynas, Juozas, what do you think about our Lithuanian ecosystem in this sense? Are we good? We need more?
I think we're good and we need more. So infrastructure, no question about it. If you do any kind of wet work, you need that infrastructure. And we do have a commercial lab, actually. It's run by university. It's like a bioincubator. And a very good indicator is that the bioincubator is booked to the fullest. There's a line of people waiting to get in. So clearly there needs to be more. But what's nice to see is that there is a demand for such a space. And the government is planning to build at least more of these kind of infrastructure projects for life sciences. So that's certainly good. I can only add that, also, there's a lot of EU funding that goes to universities, and then there's this open access policy that you can access most of the facilities in one way or another. So that's good. And I would like to add on top that I think what is important is infrastructure in a sense of being able to collaborate with hospitals. Now, this is very business dependent, and not all startups will need this. But in Lithuania, there's very good ecosystem. It's pretty easy to collaborate with hospitals to get patient samples and get bioethics permissions. So it's also a reasonably good environment for a startup in that sense.
What is your take on infrastructure?
Yeah, so from Biomatter Designs perspective, at the beginning, we did not need as much infrastructure, as our technologies are mostly based in the algorithms and computational things. But of course, we reached the point where we needed to validate everything in lab. And our case was, let's say, a bit of specific, because we did not need a lot of lab space, and we just needed to do some experiments some of the time. So what Juozas mentioned was the open access opportunity to just rent some techniques, rent some apparatus, and just run some experiments and get your results. So this open access policy, at least in Vilnius University, was life-saving. So it saves you, it saves time, it saves you resources, and you just you pay for the experiment, you have your team, some of the team members go perform them, and that's it. So this was very valuable to us.
Because bricks and mortar, bricks are clear to me, right? Some fancy equipment is clear to me. What about people? What about talent? To find a co-founder, to find a person to do work with you, to share the idea, to share a bigger vision. What about that? Just Gatis, we can start with you.
Yes, I think I sort of represent like combination of two things, biology and engineering. I think we have quite a few biologists like studying in universities. There's a pool of students, and also much better situation regarding like lab on chip and microfluidics, etc. There is very limited actually. So what we have to do is like try to find people from other countries or find from other fields and then train them. So that is a bit what we see bottleneck. But what we have done is basically what we have understood, that you have to build a sort of ecosystem, starting with like preparing courses at universities. So to get students hooked already and to start preparing them already in university, in bachelor level or master level to attract people.
How we see that in Lithuania, Laurynas? What about people?
I think one interesting thing that we've seen in recent years, and we in Droplet Genomics certainly experienced, is before we had this brain drain where people would just go away from Lithuania abroad. Now a lot of people are actually coming back. They got that experience. They want to implement their ideas. Maybe there's some national pride feeling, I don't know, but people are certainly coming back and want to kind of try to do their work here in Lithuania, and that's that helps us. That helps us attract talent. Of course, the pool is limited. There's only so much people who went abroad and want to come back, but it's still nice to see. On the other hand, there's certainly the same situation as in Latvia, where very specialized people are very limited, and you have to grow them. But to be honest, I think to some extent it's a global phenomenon, right? If you work in a super narrow area, there's not going to be many people working there anyway. So given that there's 3 million people here, we scale that down, by 100 when compared to US. So instead of 10 people, you have one, so.
So, Kadri, thank you very much. You came back. We're very happy to have you, because the Estonian angle is very important into our panel. And I hope we have solved technical issues. So I still want to touch with first question with you also, what is your take? Because, because I know all of you guys, I know that, three guys are coming more from scientific and you coming from pure business environment, right? And this, your view on this is very interesting and important. So what is your take on Estonian life science and biotech startup ecosystem in general, and how you see that, and just your opinion?
Yeah, so I hope you can hear me now. I had to change a browser. Didn't see this one coming. Thanks for your patience. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't have the life science background. I think you and me are the only non-PhDs in this discussion. What a shame. What a shame. It's definitely difficult to come from outside. And thus it's also kind of complicated to give like a normal overview of what's happening. I did speak to my co-founder, and she kind of pointed out a few things. I personally feel that one thing that I want to share with you and others is that University of Tartu just established their new investment arm. It's called Tartu Ventures, and it basically aims to promote and fund, then I hope, research-based entrepreneurship. So we're very proud of it. They just hired a new general partner or manager there. So maybe Donatas, it's something for you to check up. We definitely have like interesting projects going on here in Estonia. I think like the leading one probably that comes to mind is the Estonian Genome Bank, but there are others like icosagene biomedicine and a number of synthetic biology projects. So there are things happening, but I'm probably not the best person to give you an overview. But if you want to learn more, I'm happy to put you in touch.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. And also, I'm very interested into your company because it seems like your company again started with a bit more different way, right? You see the opportunity, you have a technology, and you are thinking about making a product, commercializing it, right? Of course, with a lot of biology behind and science behind. But this is a bit different. How was your start? What was your limitations or main pain points to solve before you started and jumped into this full time?
So it's kind of difficult for me to explain what's the detailed story behind it, and I think it's not even that interesting in detail. So we're building an early stage breast cancer screening service that is based on spectral analysis of human hair using off-the-shelf spectroscope basically, and then treating the data that we get from there with statistical analysis and our own predictive models. It started out by my co-founder's father's company, who actually produces these spectrometers, and he just wanted. He basically saw an article published, and he wanted to test if he could get the same results that the article got. And so that's what they did already like a few years ago. And then he kind of randomly sent it to my co-founder, who was like, okay, maybe there's an opportunity here. And then like, again, a few years passed, and now I'm here. And the moment I was told about it, it's very difficult, if you're like an ambitious business person and into startups, to find something that is not another app. And I'm definitely past that phase. I think everybody in 2020s are. So it's difficult, but it's definitely, I think in a way it's easier to hire business people to life science or biotech companies, because everybody is looking to make an impact and not just do like, I don't know, random workout apps that we have too many of maybe.
It's very important. I think, we're going to touch this topic, but working in this field, the impact, right, or things you can do, it's so much different from in some other categories when you work, right? So it's one of the good things and one of the very interesting things to be doing these things. Guys, another question what I wanted to touch a little bit, going from our discussion is of course, some things we're stronger in, and what are the strongest I don't know, technologies or know-how bases in our countries, what we can build on. What is in life science and biotechnology? Kadri, you mentioned something in university in Tartu, right? We know something, but what we can, if you can name one or two. I'm sure we will not be able to name all of that, but what is emerging technologies from our regions? What we can expect to see in a couple of years coming in? Juozas, Laurynas, maybe we should start with you guys, go to Gatis and then Kadri.
Yeah, I think molecular-based, technologies are very prominent in Lithuania, especially CRISPR-Cas systems being developed here in Vilnius right from the start, and now being applied by a startup. Also, DNA methylation technologies and methods, I think they're very strong as well. So I think these two categories are very much hot right now in Lithuania. Microfluidics as well. I think for the last 10 years being developed here in Lithuania. So I think it's also a very strong spot, as Juozas probably agrees.
I would add maybe artificial intelligence. I think good base in Lithuania, and there's a lot of people applying it in the context, relatively a lot of people applying it in the context of life sciences. So there's a good opportunity of interaction between the fields, which is, I think, very important.
Gatis, what about Latvia?
hopefully we will be able to say in a few years that organs and chips is the strongest part, but probably not yet. So yeah, as I'm also actually I have a PhD, but not in life sciences. But I think that my impression is more or less following the scene. We have quite a few, like, it's very well used and established, like genomics, everything related to it at university level and institute level, and also we have several companies that are using this, and also we have MGI Latvia that is they have European R&D center, this large company located here. So I expect also there will be more startups coming out, more ideas of applying this technology.
What do you think about Estonia? What is the strongest and most interesting things happening here? Which areas?
As the and everything, I think this for a long time was taught in 2 universities, which usually we try to kind of spare the resources. Things are quite active, I think. And then Biomatter, like more softer, also gaining.
Yeah. Thank you. It's exactly, if to add here my investor view here is that pure life science, pure things what we discussed as drug discovery on things where you need know-how and university kind of research for 10-20 years and clinical trials is something what we are not as investors very keen to look, as we're not specialized investors, right? So we tend to look into in the disciplinary fields where AI meets web biology, or AI meets computational biology, or where we can use this biological know-how to create the products, as in case of beams, right? So this is the thing. So definitely we are talking about these things here and kind of narrow our scope a little bit. But I'm in my knowledge, in all our countries, a lot of interesting things happening in these drug developments things, right? Things that people are coming with new things, new stuff. But probably it's going to take a couple more years just for them to see as products or companies. So it's much easier to start a company or a product in our field and in this interdisciplinary stuff than in pure science-based products. Good. So we touched already, Gatis touched a little bit on that, but universities, right, and scientists are, as Kadri said, out of 5 of us here, right, 3 are PhDs, right, the guys from university, and it seems like you're a very important part of scientists in university, a very important part of tech ecosystem, and it's not strange that Boston is probably the strongest center in the world of biotechnology startups, just because of so many universities around, right? And very strong scientific base. So how we see this as an ecosystem part? What is your take on that? And Kadri, I don't know how well you know this part, but would be very interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so as you said, there isn't that much that you can possibly hear from me. I would even kind of say that I don't want to speculate here. So maybe somebody else can cover.
Sure. Thank you, guys. So what do you think about universities and the role of universities in the ecosystem? Is it increasing? It is very important, and how you see that? Laurynas, Juozas?
Yeah, I think it's no doubt important, right? As you said, Boston is a great example. Stanford, Berkeley, Cambridge, everywhere where you find really strong companies, there's a strong university. So there's no doubt that universities play an important role. And from Lithuania, I think Vilnius University is a very strong life sciences center in the region. Perhaps not covering everything that life sciences has to offer, but you can't really cover everything. You need to specialize, and where we specialize, we're pretty good. The CRISPR, we're just like this close from a novel, right? So that certainly shows the level of science being done here. And I think, we have some good technical base in Kaunas Technical University, in Vilnius Technical University. There's a lot to do with lasers, right? Very strong laser base. So certainly there's a very strong scientific potential here. How well that translates into startups, we're just now starting to see that. And, it remains, I think, to be seen when we will utilize the full potential, because I think there's still some more untapped there.
Just one question: do scientists want to do a startup? Do they want to go out and do it? I know you're good examples here, right, guys? But what is the general trend, and what is the general feeling between your peers?
I can say that when I started, sorry, just finished. When I started my bachelor's, which was quite some time ago, nobody wanted to do a startup. Now, when I teach university, around 50% of students want to do a startup. So
amazing, 50%.
Yeah, so it's a good change. Most of them at some point realize that maybe it's not actually the thing they want to do, but there's certainly that sentiment that, hey, it's something we want to try out. So,
starting to say something.
Just wanted to kind of just discuss this topic as well with my friends and co-founders, and they also pointed out that there's quite a stereotypical views on both sides, from the business community towards researchers, and the other way around, definitely. But I feel that things might be kind of changing, just as was mentioned just a moment ago. So it's the same here, and I think it's very much up to you and up to me and Donatas to kind of try to understand what's the science we're about, and what actually drives young researchers in the first place, and then to kind of understand if entrepreneurship is something that could be interesting for them.
Yeah, very good observation and a big task. We'll see how it goes. Guys, what is that take on you? How you see students and scientists in Latvia? Are they willing to do a startup?
I think it's similar as like in Lithuania and Estonia as well, because it's becoming like working at startup is becoming cool. Like it's trending, so everyone knows somebody who is working in some startup, or friends, etc. Right? So it's becoming like a part of like everyday, let's say, discussions, etc. And right now, everyone like more or less understands what is like fundraising, the seeds rounds, exits, unicorns, etc. So yeah, of course, what I see, I have like colleagues, students in bachelor, they of course know much more than back when I was like bachelor student. So and in Latvia, what we have is this commercialization grants financed by Latvian Investment and Development Agency that is directly like bridging this gap. It's like 300K bridging this gap between research and a startup company, and that has sort of forced a lot of researchers. They have participated in that. That was like first real. For the first time, they have to deal with this like commercialization. How does it work? Do we do like a startup, like licensing deals, etc. So that has really helped also researchers, not only the students, but also like more senior researchers to get introduced in this world, if you can call it, because yeah, researchers might live in very like a detached world. So yeah, it's definitely improving.
It's very encouraging to hear, guys, these things. It makes me think that this next fund probably should be life science fund. For us, not just pure tech. But we'll see, guys. Exactly. Let's change the topic a little bit. Now we covered kind of bigger picture in our region, but let's go into the small details of startup business and biotech startup business, right? And I want to touch on 3 topics here, right? First of all, a commercial side of building this kind of company, because I believe most of the companies I talk to, especially in the early stage, overlook that, right? They just think we're gonna continue R&D now and commercial things gonna come. Second topic is IP, because usually IP is very important part, right? It's more important than in any other technical company. And third is, of course, financing and how to get the money, right? So these three topics. Let's start with commercial side first. And what is your personal experience in building your companies? Where you place the commercial thinking or structure in your organization? How big of a priority is it for you, and how you look into this? I don't know. Should we start from Laurynas? He spoke a little bit last.
Yeah. So we definitely are on the side of R&D as our company progresses, but we're slowly driving towards commercializing the final product. So there's definitely enough tools in the ecosystem to at least get the access to the network that can drive you towards good decisions. So perhaps maybe locally we do not have right now a specific expert in commercialization of design proteins, but we have enough network in Lithuania to reach those people, and then after contacting them, making a sound decision about our commercialization plan. So I think this case is very much covered just because in the global times we are living right now.
How many commercial people you have in your team, in your company right now?
So one.
It's you or somebody else?
No, it's not me. So I'm partly covering the commercial and the R&D side, and we have an extra person for the business development.
That's great. That's great. Gatis, what is it, how you do that in your?
Yeah. So I think the first, more general comment that this, as we are all deep tech, very deep tech companies, right? It's not, you cannot. I don't know, do a Kickstarter campaign or make an app and blow up in 2 months. So it usually takes a long time. So, and also the customers are usually B2B, they're businesses. For example, in our case, we are targeting drug developers, like contract research organizations or pharmaceutical companies, and everything takes much longer time, and it's different approach than posting ads on Instagram or hiring influencers or something like that. So it's a bit different sort of typical startup business, as we all are most likely familiar with, like Facebook and all these applications, right? So we have also at this is public grant. We have a part-time business person that helps us with contacting customers, contacting people, making connections, setting up meetings, looking from the other view, I would say, because we might sometimes it's hard for us to look from the outside because we live in a bubble, sort of say. And so in general, it's not it's easy. It doesn't take time, but I guess that's why it's exciting.
Great, thank you, Juozas. And how you build a commercial structure?
I think we approach it as scientists. We set on paper what we do not understand, and we draw a line clearly that look, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and then we try to kind of fill the gaps either by reading or by reaching out to people. So not unlike other guys on the call. I guess BMed is a bit different here. I think in general, in most life sciences startups, if it starts from academia, there's a lack of business knowledge and how to do business. But then, there's a big network. You can always reach out and people will help you. So if you're not too proud to do that, then you're in good position. But yeah, I'm not sure what else I can really add on this. It would be more interesting to hear from Kadri how they do it, because it's a completely different approach, right?
Kadri, challenges.
It's different for us. So at the moment, it's kind of like 50-50, and we rather see expanding the research side and also the medical side. And I mean, I think like getting to product market fit with a medtech is especially crazy because the product market that you kind of aim to is tied to clinical trials. So every failure costs a lot more than just a failure to find the fit. So you have to plan out from the very early start, what you're kind of aiming to get, and how do you get there, and what's the plan B, and then the plan C. So yeah, it's challenging, but not at least. It's maybe too early to say about anything about business development. I mean, we do have that competence in our team. The other question is whether like your wider experience in business development in the world makes sense in medical community. So that is yet to be proven. So let's see.
It's a very good topic actually what Kadri touched. So I from our experience and from our couple of cases of investment, it's not that clearly kind of moves from one experience into the medical sphere, and you cannot just apply usually the same principle all the time. But in big grand scale of game, it works. And people who can talk, people who can write, you're not afraid to go and ask and propose and make a commercial offering. You can succeed. So it's good stuff, of course, but filling the gaps of network, filling the gaps of knowing the real backstage agreements or rules, it's always worth to do that. And my advice into companies I invest, let's buy this competence as soon as we can, and as soon as we have at least some market fit and we know the product is ready for at least some subset of clients somewhere out there. So this is important thing. It's good, guys. So it's probably we have to conclude on this on the commercial side that we need to have that, right? And we need to think from early days of this, because maybe not from day one, not maybe first year even, right? But because a lot of things should be done there, and some early commercial activities might be just wasted because of we don't have anything yet to offer to the market. But still, it has to be thought, and any approach, or it's part-time, as Gatis said, or competence inside the company, or as Juozas and Laurynas, hiring people on the way works. It just should be done at some point in the company. Great, thanks for that. So let's go on IP. IP is another important topic, right? And I know, guys, that you look into IP, probably you learned a lot of building your companies. So give us just how, if I'm a scientist who just thinking about starting a company with some nice technology behind me, what should I do with my IP issues and how to approach that? Juozas, should you start with that?
So IP is a complex topic, I think. Certainly from our experience, what we see is that there's no one solution that fits all, right? I will not say and then just say go patent as early as possible, because sometimes that's not the wisest decision to do. And here, I think, as with business development, we need very special competences of, IP lawyers and perhaps even IP managers, as they can be called, people who really understand how to position IP and what value it brings to the company. Because most oftenly, IP is the cornerstone of a value in a biotech startup, right? It either allows you to protect your technology, or it's a very good bargaining chip that gives you freedom to operate and allows you to kind of sell yourself to somebody else if that's what you want to do. So my advice would be to go and kind of talk to people as early as possible and figure out, what you need to protect and how to protect. And I will just kind of bring it to the topic that there's two things: there's freedom to operate, and there's IP that protects your innovations. And these are two very different things that should be thought from the beginning very differently at. Yeah, so it's just, talking with experienced people certainly helps. In our case, we had very early on access to very well experienced people in this area, and that, I think, guided us quite a bit in the beginning. And even to this day, we're still don't make any decisions one-sidedly. We try to consult with people who know better.
That is how you solve these issues, how you approach IP.
Yeah, I think I have never heard that any startup have said that we started to think or work on our IP too early, or spend time too early about that. So I think we have started in the right time, and based on advice from other startups in Baltics that we have concluded, to just don't really try to save money on good IP consultancy firms and go work with the best or very good companies. And we are right now in quite early stage, but we see that in our case, as we have spent quite a lot of time like doing research on IP in our field, that we need to do patent application faster than later in our case, that we are right now working on. So we are in a process, hopefully the right way.
Okay, Laurynas, and you don't have a lot of the patent in artificial intelligence field, right?
Yeah, so I think it's for researchers, it's immensely important to have patience. Researchers do like to publish. So even though you may want to get a fast patent out, fast application out, and then publish, just so you can publish, because you're still in research, and that's fine. But I think patience is key here, and sometimes it's better to wait a while, invest in more experiments, maybe build a stronger case for the patent. Eventually, you will have a stronger article, anyways. So I think patience is key here, and also I agree with everyone else. I think seeking support, seeking first the validation. Is this even valid to patent? And then support for try not to write patent applications alone. Yeah.
Kadri, how you take on that? How you do that?
Yep. So completely agree. As early as possible, and don't try to save money here. I was told. I mean, one of the top law firms in the Baltics was like, "Yeah, we have somebody on IP, but it's probably not us that you should talk to. You should find somebody from other places." And now we followed that advice. And then commenting quickly on Juozas, what you said about the freedom to operate. We also wanted to do that, and then we were convinced that we definitely shouldn't, because nobody actually these days gives 100% guarantee. And so most probably the result of a freedom to operate is like, nah, probably not, probably no freedom, because nobody really wants to give their name under, yeah, you can go, this is like totally patentable and can be done. So maybe this was kind of like eye-opening piece of advice. And instead of doing the FTO, you can just save these few or like thousands of cases and put it into your patent application instead.
I'll just reply here quickly. I didn't mean to do a freedom to operate analysis, because that's very much worthless in the sense that you limit yourself by actually saying what you cannot really do, right? So not knowing in this case sometimes is better, but on the other hand, we are well aware always about the competition, at least immediate competition. And so it's very worthwhile to check what they're doing and to know that your patents do not necessarily guarantee you freedom to operate. So you really need to look into the fact that, what can I actually do and how do I work around the things that I cannot do? Because the IP you have may not just give you that freedom to operate, right? So that's what I wanted to point out, that just protecting your innovation is not sufficient for business.
Very deep knowledge, guys. Thanks a lot for sharing. So, and last question probably before we round up here is how to get money to finance the company in this field. What is your experiences and what would be your advice to somebody who's going to be fundraising? And also, guys, in this panel, you can say if you're fundraising. I'm happy to encourage that. So I don't know, Gatis, should we start from you?
Yeah. So kind of my first advice is if you're in the region, talk to Donatas. I think two guys here can confirm. You can try talking to other guys. I did that, and everybody was like, "Yeah, this is definitely out of our comfort zone, or the ambitions of our LPs." And then I think there's like a great. I don't know even how much do tech VCs and life science VCs work together. It seems like this can be like a very different path to success. So this is yet to be found out. but they seem to operate like a little bit differently. And I think what they are looking for in like pitch decks or meetings is a bit different as well.
Thank you. Thanks for nice words, but we're not that deep, but we're happy to look into the case.
You're the best we have.
Hopefully, just not true, but thank you. Gatis, what is your take on?
Yes, I will start with the let's say public funding and grants. That I think is crucial part also in any ecosystem. Coming technologies from universities and research environment, and it is important to have availability of such grants for SMEs or startups, or as we have in Latvia, that is really great, this commercialization grants, and that is really helps to take your idea to the next level. Then you can actually go to VC. Like Practica, and then say, oh yeah, we actually have something built already, not just like an idea that it might work. So that we have been using, and right now we are not actively raising, but we are looking to do it next year when we have developed this product and enough using public funding. And what we are looking for is that, let's say, venture capital is not only like source of money, but they're sort of partners. So you should look for a fund that actually can help you as well to give added values with connections, with advice, etc. And that is as important as just like doing wire transfer. Yeah, so that would be my short take.
It's very important, guys, and I think all of us, we're going to be able to attract much more investors, much more angels, advisors to bring knowledge into our region of building these companies, because it's we making a very lot of knowledge, but probably how to build tech biotech startup in this region, we still don't know the right way experimenting. So we all need to do that, guys. And Juozas, Laurynas, what is your take on this, on how to fund your company and how you've done that? Laurynas, start first.
Okay, so in Biomatter Design stories, our grants actually played a larger role. So national European grants. So we have raised, I think, 4 or 5 times as much money from grants so far than from venture capital. And I think that's that's a double-edged sword. So grants are more complex, slower, but they offer equity-free money. So it's definitely slower. It does not give you experience that comes from VCs. So I think the best, at least for us right now, so the best recipe is the mix of both grant money and more aggressive money and experience that VC can bring. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to execute.
Juozas?
I'm not sure I can really add anything on top because we are using the same model, grant plus VC money. Grants early on to develop something you can show to VCs, and then grants do allow for some scaling as well. There's early grants, late stage grants, so the government really helps there, and I think it's vital. I will just put it out there that it's not only local government grants, but there's also quite a lot of EU opportunities. Naturally, there's more competition for those EU opportunities, but the funding pool is much bigger, and the allocated sums are also much bigger. So being in Europe, it's worth thinking about those options and applying there as well.
Good. So we have opportunities, right? It's not that other. That's very good. And guys, I really want to encourage that Estonian, Lithuanian, Latvian angels. There are real strong angels in the field, right? I know they're not probably sometimes available in the pitch challenges, but I know at least 20, 30 people from pharma industry, from biotechnology industry, who are made the millions in the fields and who are ready. Okay, at least can be approached for advice, and maybe they would invest if they believe. So this is, I think, is important. Guys, so probably last thing, I would ask you for one advice for a scientist or somebody in our field thinking about the company. So one advice for that, and probably I can say that anybody out there can reach out through our LinkedIn in any advice, connection, discussion, topic, or sharing the IP lawyer, sharing how it goes. So let's encourage people to connect and talk, and maybe we're going to be able to push our ecosystem further. And I'm also happy to be approached with any topic or deck to look into it. So guys, last thing, let's start with Kadri. So one thing to say for scientists in a lab right now thinking about professor career or starting a company.
Definitely start a company after doing the professor thing for a while. Although I understand it kind of takes so much time that it's a very difficult decision to make. But I think that maybe bringing on board a co-founder who is not necessarily from your lab might be like a good opportunity to save your time on what you actually on the reasons science and research in the first place. So, and I think I know that there are a lot of people out there willing to do exactly that. So why not use them?
Laurynas, what is that say?
So it's a lot different than academia. It's worth to try, and if you're not gonna try, you're not gonna know. So I think it's worth a shot.
What do you say?
Yes, I think I will use one very good sort of conclusion or advice from KTH. They have quite like real Institute of Technology in Sweden, but they have built very good technology transfer office. And what I said that really thinking about application and what for researchers, thinking about application and what would be the product and how that would be applied actually really helps to do a better science. Because you do it like think about it. Is it more like application, like what would be the real case, etc. So that I would encourage every scientist to think about, even they don't think about joining or starting any startup right now. But that would also help if you actually decide at some point, yes, that is a good idea. And for me, I have let's say I started my career in working in startups after university in Silicon Valley here in Latvia, and then joined actually academics, and then like trying to go back. So for me, it's like no-brainer. I think it's more exciting actually.
Thank you. Very, very, very good advice actually. So Juozas, and what is it?
Yeah, my take is that actually it's not that difficult from academia, in a sense that you do not have to give up solving challenges, because that's why we go to academia, right? To solve challenges and to figure out difficult scientific problems. So there's going to be plenty of that in a life sciences startup as well. So, you should not be afraid it's going to be all business. That's one thing. And the advice that I want to give is similar to Kadri, is that you really need to build a strong team around you of co-founders and early employees, because more likely than not, you'll not be able to do it alone because there's just a lot of complexity involved in a life sciences startup.
Guys, thanks a lot. Thanks everybody who was watching or listening. I hope it was interesting, and we would be happy to be approached. And that's it for now. Thank you, and bye-bye.